Guys, it happened. It is here. It is out now for us to consume. If you've been a regular listener of the show or a watcher of the show over the last 18 months, you'll know that I've been talking with the clubhouse leader in terms of appearances on the Tusk Pod, the legend, the ABS, the Aussie boxing scribe himself, Anthony Cox. We've hinted and we've teased at an unbelievable project that he has literally spent 7 years working on. It is here, right there, guys. The Brawl at the Sydney Opera House and other Aussie boxing yarns, all about diving into the rich history of Australian boxing through the 70s and 80s. Guys, I've got mine. I can't wait to read it. It's just been released today. So when you see this, I will have already read it. We'll be talking about it on the pod. We'll get Tony back on the pod to talk about it. Don't worry about that. But it is available globally on Amazon.com for you to all enjoy. The link to the book will be in the description of this episode, so click away. And if you do, not only will you be reading and consuming a fantastic boxing-related piece of literature, but you'll also be supporting one of the best guys in the sport globally. So available now, guys, The Brawl at the Sydney Opera House and other Aussie boxing yarns.
Let's go and move with life. Let it go, something new tonight. Let's go and move with life. Let it go, something new tonight.
All right, well, here I am joined by not only an Australian boxing, Olympic and Commonwealth Games team member and national representative, but he has figuratively and literally put his money where his mouth is and contributed to the sport, not only as a fighter and promoter, but also now as the creator and long-standing host of Boxing Deep Dive, with its many iterations on YouTube and Spotify, the worldwide leading interactive boxing fan experience and platform. He also happens to be a returning mate of the show. It's Lynden Hosking. Lynden, thanks for coming back on the show, mate. I'm pumped to have a chat.
Yeah, no worries, mate. Thanks for the nice intro. I've never been introduced that way before, but thank you. It's the description of the show. I suppose I am long-standing now, isn't it? It's been about 5 years since I've had the channel going, so I suppose I'm a bit of a veteran these days, aren't I?
Absolutely, mate. Leading the way globally. And also, mate, I noticed you got some new thumbnails and new graphics and stuff recently.
Yeah. I've entered the AI age, mate. I had to get with it. I haven't got a lot of time to do these sorts of things, and I've got Canva and all that sort of stuff, but I haven't got time to do it. I'm not really an expert at any of that sort of stuff, so I've been getting told for ages by people to give AI a try. Now, I know it's a bit of a cop-out. It's a bit of a cheating way to do it, but, geez, it does a good job. Takes a little bit of time manoeuvring around it all, but, geez, it does some good things, And yeah, I suppose I'm just getting with the times, I suppose.
Nah, it's awesome, mate. They look fantastic. Well, I literally, this isn't even a joke, I literally use Microsoft Paint to do mine. So
is that right?
You're well and truly ahead of me, mate. But it looks fantastic. So a great new addition. And the studio, every time you come back on, you've made some new additions, mate. It looks fantastic. So great to see the continuing innovation. It's inspiring too, mate. So congrats on all that. But let's get into it, Lynden. The reason I wanted to get you on specifically at this time was I thought it just fits so perfectly well when I was looking at the schedule a couple of months ago, in between Andrew Moloney's successful world title shot we know now, which we'll get into, and also Liam Paro's world title shot at the end of the month. And when I think of Australian boxing and big shows and our fighters on the world stage and people who I want to talk to, inevitably your name always pops into my mind, mate. So this was sort of the timing I was hoping for. So I appreciate you being here and letting me able to pull off that plan. But let's jump straight into it, because you've had a long-standing relationship on multiple different levels with Andrew Moloney, and we'll get into the fight and we'll get into the storylines surrounding it and all that type of thing. But just first off the bat, for someone that's sort of, not to be too grandiose about it, but been in the trenches with Andrew for so many years, like how thrilled were you? Like what did that win for Andrew mean to you, sitting on your couch on Saturday afternoon watching?
Yeah, it meant a lot actually, mate. I go back to 2012 was the first time I met Andrew and Jason down at East End Boxing Gym in Melbourne, and the first time I saw them fight, I thought these guys, well, I suppose you could almost classify them as kids back then, sort of, I think early 20s, whatever it was. I just thought these guys have got it. And I've probably talked about it a few times in the past, but I sponsored a trip over to America for them in the start of 2015. I just thought so much of the guys that I wanted to get them over there, and not necessarily for the camp. It ended up being a great camp, but we only went over there just really, I wanted them to experience a big fight culture, I suppose. Go to Vegas, go to LA, get some sparring, all that sort of stuff. And it turned into one of those trips of a lifetime. And sort of joined, I suppose, Team Moloney after that, and was part of the, being in the corner and obviously part of the management and promotional team. I promoted, I think, 9 or 10 of their fights early on, and got a real bond with the boys. And even though they went on the bigger and better things with Top Rank after that, and now with Jason's with Tasman, and who is it with Andrew at the moment? He's a bit of a free agent, I think, at the moment, isn't he?
I was going to ask you. I have no idea.
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm not quite sure, but either way, I mean, both boys went on the bigger and better things, and I've always sort of kept in contact with the boys. Went over to see them both fight overseas in 2023, and talked to them every now and then on the phone or whatever, and just kept in touch. And I've just always been full of admiration for both of them, the way they conduct themselves and the way they carry themselves in all things in life, and boxing especially. And seeing firsthand and talking to the boys, especially Andrew, with some of the stuff that's gone on with him over the last few years, he's had a pretty rough trot. And the conversation I've had with him when he's talked about what is next and what possibly might be next, and the frustrations of the last couple of years with the Mexican fight last year that fell over, and having to go to Fiji to maintain his ranking, and all these things that have come up. Not to mention seeing him in the flesh in Las Vegas get dropped by Nakatani, which was just a devastating knockout. I didn't think he'd come back. I really didn't. I remember talking to him after the fight, and he wasn't sure where he was at. And then, of course, the Guevara lost a couple of years ago. It's just been one thing after another with Andy. And don't forget the thumb in the eye with Joshua Franco, 4 or 5 years ago as well. So he's been through the ringer, and he's come out the other side. And not to mention the $350,000 he knocked back because he wanted, in his words, his dream wasn't for sale. So I've just got so much admiration for the guy. He could have easily taken that 350 grand, set himself up to some extent, I suppose, and walked away, and then maybe kept the fingers crossed for something down the track, but he didn't. He maintained the faith. His team maintained the faith. His fans, close fans, maintained the faith as well. And I think he set himself after the 11th round on the weekend. He just had those flashbacks, and he knew he had to dig in, and he won that last round and won the fight. So I'm just so proud of Andrew. As I said, seeing where he's come from and the amount of effort that he's put in and the setbacks that he's had. If anyone's ever earned this belt, it is Andrew Moloney, and I'm just so stoked for him, and not so sure he's going to get the Bam Rodriguez fight. He looks like he's moved on to bigger and better things, but I mean, the fact he's got that belt, there'll be some big fights there for him, and I just, again, can't wish him all the best any more than what I already have.
Yeah, no, that's a great summation of the roller coaster of Andrew's career the last couple of years. It's just unbelievable. And you said it there. I think that's the perfect word. You sort of admire the decision he made to knock back the money and take the fight. And a great reflection of sort of the character of Andrew. And Jason's always shown as well, even in adversity, and when they're presented with, a way, not necessarily a way out, but a different path that could potentially benefit them more. No, they stuck fat, and he took that opportunity that he deserved and he wanted, and thank God it paid off for him. Thank God. I was so nervous during that fight. But we'll talk about the actual fight itself with Wilberto Garcia, the defending champion. Lynden, did it sort of play out how you were expecting, or did anything surprise you along the way?
It played out the way that I hoped that it would go, and that is that Andrew would box smart, because this Garcia, I mean, I thought in the lead up to it, if you watched my videos, you would have seen that I had respect for Garcia, but he's very limited as far as the way he fights, and he's rough and tough and rugged, but the way he throws his punches, they're all swings, and there's no real setting up punches. And I thought that if Andrew boxes smart and picks his shots, and Andrew's a very, very good boxer, and he's sort of over the journey, he's become more of an inside type of fighter, but he's a very, very good boxer, good jab. Angelo Hyde is very big on having a real stiff jab. Jason's the same. And I thought if he used his lateral movement, picked his shots, pinpointed and really exploited Garcia's deficiencies, I thought he could do what he did. But having said that, after 8 rounds, I was a little bit nervous, because I thought, well, we're about to go into those really deep waters, as they say, and Garcia was starting to really gain momentum, and Andy was starting to gas a little bit and really feel the effects of brutal 8 rounds. And after, I think, 11 rounds. I think I still had it 7 rounds to 4 for Andy, but I thought, geez, that last round's going to be a teller. And I'm just glad that he didn't take it for granted that he was in front. He went out there, won the last round, and I think one of the judges might have had it a draw from memory, did they? 114, 114. Yeah, and I think the other ones had it judges had it 115, 113. So it was a maturity from a mature sort of fight for Andrew, and also showing a lot of grit and heart, and not to mention the cuts over the eyes and everything like that. So all round, it was just one of those just typical Aussie performances that we've seen over the journey with the Jeff Horns and George Camboses's, where they've gone over, they've gone overseas, not so much Jeff Horn, but Liam Paro as well, and they've gone overseas and faced adversity, and they've really dug deep and pulled out a real unlikely win. I thought it was just fantastic. And I did actually miss a FaceTime call from Andrew on about an hour after the fight as well, which I wasn't happy about. I had to go to work, and the next day, I think it was the next afternoon, that I was just scrolling through my phone and saw that I missed a FaceTime call from him. But that's again getting back to the character of Andrew and Jason. That I haven't promoted the guys for 8 years, but after every single fight they have, they always send me a message and or publicly say they thank me so much for what I did for them in the journey, and that's the type of guys that they are. And even an hour after the fight, he took the time to give me a FaceTime, and even though I missed it, but again, it goes back to the character of both boys, and that's why, again, I'm so rapt for both of them. But I was nervous after 11 rounds, mate, but and I was also very nervous as they were calling the scorecards out, because I think Andrew was quoted as well saying, obviously, we couldn't understand Japanese, but it was that sinking feeling of, my gut feeling was I was praying that it wasn't going to happen, but I had this really bad feeling it was going to be a draw, and it would have just been a 0-all. I mean, what do you do after that? So I was just so glad that he won that last round and pulled it out in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. It was unreal. I sort of had some flashbacks real early to that second Franco fight you mentioned earlier, because just like that fight, Andrew started brilliantly in the first round. The jab was absolutely on fire. He's maintaining his distance. Everything was clicking. And then the second round, he gets the head clash and gets cut. And you're just like, oh, God, what has to happen for this guy to be able to get some good luck? Reminds me of the old saying, when they say you can love boxing, but it'll never love you back. And I'm like, God, what does this sport have it in for Andrew for, But to exactly the way you described it, he dug down and fought through it and got a much deserved win. But I have to say, Lynden, I found this fight incredibly difficult to score. I thought the clearest rounds were round 1 for Andrew, round 2 for Garcia, and round 12 for Andrew. Literally every other round, and I've watched it twice, I could just throw a blanket over. I found it really, really difficult. I thought all the rounds were close. Look, if there's some Mexicans out there that said they had a Garcia 7-5, I couldn't really mount an argument against them. I thought it was sort of that razor close. The thing that really I guess it did surprise me, and I was much more harsh on it the first time I watched the fight than I was the second time I watched it. I sort of saw things I didn't see at the time because my heart was racing and all that type of stuff, and you're in the barracking, sort of mindset. But I thought Andrew kind of went away from the jab in spots after the first round, or after maybe the first or second round. He was having such great success with it, and it sort of got me thinking that potentially maybe there was a hand injury or something like that, but he was content to throw the left hook upstairs and the left rip down the bottom. So I was thinking, maybe his hand's okay. Maybe it's the elbow. He doesn't want to risk locking it out. He was turning southpaw, and when he turned southpaw, he was throwing the right jab, but for whatever reason, it seemed to me that he was jabbing less after the first couple of rounds. Ironically, the punch that I thought he had by far and away the most success with early. Did you notice that? Am I sort of reading it wrong? Do you have a reason for that potentially?
No, you're not reading it wrong. I thought the same thing, but I sort of put it down to the fact that, Garcia was just rough and tough inside. Yeah. Every chance he got inside, he was just the shoulder and the elbow and the head, and not that they were deliberate, but that's just the way he fights. And I give a lot of credit to Angelo Hyder during the fight for keeping on the straight and narrow, because if you can hear Angelo right throughout the fight screaming, use the jab, go to the body, move, and you could see that Andrew, he'd almost react instantaneously. But I do agree, he probably went away a little bit from the jab a little bit, but that comes down to fatigue and just wear and tear, and the fact that maybe his opponent makes some adjustments as well. And I wasn't so sort of in the camp of maybe had an injury. I just thought he just sort of stray off track a little bit every now and then. And Andrew's been good at that throughout his career. whereas Jason is very methodical, will never ever stray from the plan. He very much reminds me of a Mexican fighter. Jason does, with the way he just goes through the gears and doesn't deviate. Andrew's a little bit more, I suppose, he fights a little bit more emotional than Jason, and can get a little bit off track and get sort of caught up and sucked in a little bit. And that's why I think Angelo was so vocal during the fight by just screaming at him to get back to the plan. And to Andrew's credit, he did. And again, that goes to show the relationship both of those guys have with Angelo, and that he listened to him. And again, credit to Andrew, who was able to just stay on course and go back on course if he did stray. So, yeah, I probably wasn't as stressed as probably as what you said. You were look like you were watching it, but I just thought he had to just maintain the composure and focus, and you get the job done. I must admit, I didn't have it that close or as close as you did. I probably, to be honest with you, after 8 rounds, I had it 7 rounds to 1, which I know goes way against what you had it. But there were a lot of close rounds in there.
I didn't score it at all. I just was like, I don't know who won this round.
Having said that, even though I had it 7 rounds to 1, I knew there'd be some swing rounds. So even though, and you got to have a little bit of the maybe champion tax you got to throw in there as well. So even though I had it 7 rounds to 1, it could have easily been 5 rounds to 3 or something like that, or 4-4, who knows. But it just depends on how you score the fight. I just thought, even though Garcia was throwing a lot of punches, not landing a lot, I just thought Andrew was picking his shots and landing the better shots and finishing really well. I'm not sure whether that was a strategy or not, but you would have seen in the last sort of 10 to 15 seconds, Andrew would really pick it up and try and finish off on a really good note. Maybe that was just to exploit a little bit of Garcia's sort of style of the way he fights. But either way, it doesn't matter now. We got the win, and we can hypothesize all we want until we, I suppose, hear from Andrew directly, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's such an interesting point you made about Jason and Andrew too. Sort of Andrew fighting a little bit more emotionally, Jason being a lot more methodical. I was talking to Anthony Cox. Obviously, you're very familiar with Anthony. Yeah. And we were talking, actually too, if anyone hasn't got it, Anthony's released his book that he's worked 7 years on. The Brawl at the Sydney Opera House and Other Aussie Boxing Yarn. So that is available now. The link will be in the description of this episode, so you can click away and buy that for yourself on Amazon. Shout out to Coxie, the Aussie Boxing Scribe. But we're chatting on the phone, and we're having a very similar conversation to what we were just having then, Lynden. And I sort of never thought about it before, but it's like the thing that have kind of been, quote unquote problems for Andrew, like you pointed out, is maybe getting a little bit too aggressive, fighting a little bit emotionally, where sticking to the game plan would sort of behoove him well moving forward throughout the fight that he's in at the time. And the problem with Jason that he's had is just slow starts a few times. It's almost like if you could swap them, they'd be perfect. Like Jason, if Andrew had Jason's attention to detail on the game plan and the focus for the full rounds and vice versa, or almost be like they have the missing piece of each other that would sort of make them complete. I know that's, again, a bit of a grandiose thing to say, but certainly an interesting comparison nonetheless. But like you said, the main thing is Andrew got the win, a massive financial risk that paid off for him. So what can you see happening next for Andrew? There was talk of a fight with Masamichi Ibuki on the undercard. I'm not sure if you saw that one as well. Certainly another rough and tough warrior. That could potentially be something that you would want to see in the future, Lynden, or have you got another plan that you'd like to see? Yeah, maybe. I'm just looking
at the rankings at the moment. So what is it at the moment? So he's now, IBF champion. So obviously Bam has got all the belts. I was going to say his mandatory is going to be Ryusu Karawara, is it? I think that's his name there. So, yeah, I don't know. It's a really interesting one because if Bam he's going up, but if he vacates the belts, I suppose if I was Andrew, if it's not going to be Bam, I think it'd be more of he's going to have to defend against his mandatory, but then it'd be just focusing on the other champions. I think that's what he's got to look at. It's unification fights now, even though, of course, those other 3 belts aren't up for grabs yet. But that's probably his best bet, I would think. I mean, let's not forget he's also 35 years of age now, so he's not a spring chicken. So if I was Andrew, I'd just look, if it's not going to be Bam, it's going for those big fights, and you would think they would be Japanese fights because that's where the money is and that's where the big offers are coming from. And Jason said the same thing. So I think the future would be in Japan for Andrew Moloney, because you can see in the rankings there's quite a few Japanese fighters there, and they love the boys. They get mobbed when they're over there. Jason's the same. So I think with Bam looking like it's out of the picture, it'll be definitely Japan orientated, I would think. And who that's against, I don't know, but I think his future's going to be over there.
Yeah, awesome. Well, hopefully next time, if it does take place in Japan, we'll be able to get some Australian TV for it, which is a little bit disappointing. But
I was waiting for that to come up. Can you believe that? That is just unbelievable. And not to mention, I know there's been a couple of small stories in the paper, and if you listen to or watch my channel, you know I've been very vocal about this, but I cannot believe, one, that it wasn't on TV here in Australia, but two, that the media coverage has just been pathetic. So it's disappointing, but I suppose it is what it is in the current climate.
Yeah, just a massive slap in the face to an absolute warrior and a fantastic ambassador for the country and the sport here. It's just, absolutely horrible, but we'll try and keep to the positive side of it. But we spoke about Masamichi Ibuki got the win over Rennie Calixto, defending the IBF flyweight title in the main event. Did you happen to catch that card? And what did you make of?
No, I didn't, mate. I had to work on the Saturday night, so I sort of missed a fair bit of the rest of the card. And I haven't tried to go back and watch. It was hard enough trying to get the app and the platform all up and going and being able to watch it. You know, and I feel sorry for a lot of the older viewers that were trying to work it out, because it was a little bit of an effort. But no, I didn't watch it, mate. Yeah. I did see some highlights of Neary getting stopped, but that's about it.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Well, we'll see what happens in the future. If it is Ibuki, I mean, geez, that's a bloody tough fight too. But we'll see how we go. Also, I didn't put this on the list, Lynden, but did you see the Chris Billum-Smith fight over the weekend? Jesus Christ, mate. This Ryan Rozicki bloke, what is going on with him?
Yeah, I didn't watch it live because it was on in all whatever hour it was on. So I watched, and I didn't get home from work till late. So I watched it during the afternoon. Geez, it was a great fight. Good card. And I'm not sure whether you got Zuffa on your list there, but I mean, it was a good card, good foray into England. But the fight itself was great, but I'm still a little bit up in the air about what Zuffa are doing. That's a different subject, though, I suppose.
Yeah, me too, mate. We could get bogged down in that for ages. Yeah. I'm super conflicted about the Tsar Dana White coming into the sport. I feel like we've got enough scumbags. We don't need any more, but whatever. No. Let's get into some... Oh, sorry.
Yep. I was just going to say, just quickly, Billum-Smith, though, looks like he might be next for Jai Opetaia, though. It makes sense, doesn't it, for the Zuffa belt, with what's going on with Benavidez and everything. It looks like it'd be Billum-Smith, which probably makes sense. You'd think maybe Jai has a tune-up first. I think they're talking about August, I think. And I'd say he'll fight Billum-Smith after that, which would be a good fight, really good fight.
So weren't there rumours of Noel Mikhailian possibly making that fight for the W? Has that sort of fallen through?
It just depends on the day and the site you're looking at, I suppose. What was supposed, like Mikhailian has come out and said, I want to fight Jai Opetaia. And Jai Opetaia's and Mick Francis and everyone has been, all right, this fight's going to happen. Then, of course, we had the WBC decide that they'll insert themselves and make David Benavidez a mandatory, which is just unheard of, that a sanctioning body mandates the champion of another organisation. You just never see it. But apparently that's what they've done. Of course, they'll mandate the number one challenger, but never will they mandate another champion. But they've done that to try and block Jai out. And now Mikhailian's got to probably make his decision about whether he keeps the WBC belt and fights Benavidez for what would be a pretty good purse, or he gives up the WBC belt and fights Jai Opetaia, probably for a slightly bigger purse. But still, he's got some decisions to make. Because, I mean, like Jai, if he loses his belt, he loses all leverage. So, and he loses out on the Benavidez fight. Now, they're probably just as dangerous as each other, but really, if I was in his position, if it came down to fighting David Benavidez for the WBC belt, I'd probably take that over fighting Jai for no belt or the Zuffa belt, whatever it is. So I'm expecting that Mikhailian will fight Benavidez, but we can only hope that Mikhailian maybe goes a different route and says, no, you can keep your WBC belt. I want to fight Jai Opetaia, but I just think it's unlikely. I think he'll fight Benavidez instead.
Yeah. Well, while we're sort of on the whole Zuffa world title thing, interestingly enough, they announced a show for the 8th of August, the 9th in Australia in Dublin, Ireland, with Aaron McKenna fighting Etinoza Oiliha. I apologise for butchering that name, for the vacant IBF middleweight title, which is so ironic because Jai was stripped of his IBF cruiserweight title for having an association with Zuffa. There seemed to be this big blow-up between Zuffa, Dana White and the IBF, and everyone was slinging mud everywhere. And now a couple of months later, they're doing business with the IBF again. Like, what is going on with that?
Is the Zuffa belt on the line in that fight as well, or just the IBF belt?
So it wasn't listed on BoxRec, but I don't think they recognise Zuffa at all. Like they don't recognise the WBA.
Because I think the difference is, of course, is that Jai had the IBF belt and it was going to be on the line along with the Zuffa belt, and that's why the IBF said no, we're not going to be in cahoots with that. We're going to be out. Where this one, it could be the IBF belt simply being on a Zuffa show. So it's probably a little bit different, but you would expect that if the IBF belt and Zuffa belt was on the line, that the IBF would pull the sanction agreement for that one. You would think, but
Jesus,
I mean, the whole thing's a mess.
That?
I mean, it's rules for some and rules for others. I mean, it's ridiculous. And I've said numerous times when it came to Jai, what they should have done is sat down with Jai and Mick, maybe even Dana, and just said, look, this is the way it's going to be going forward. Okay, there's been a massive stuff up in this respect here, and we're not going to strip you, but this is what's going to happen going forward, and just give the guy an opportunity. But to strip him, this is a guy who really loved that IBF belt and cherished it and wanted to unify and everything else, and they strip him. I just think it was pretty piss poor, but that's what they should have done. It's the IBF we're talking about, though. All the sanctioning bodies are just as bad as each other, though. I mean, you've got the WBA doing their things, who they don't even know or didn't know up until yesterday that what belt was going to be on the line for the Bam Rodriguez fight on the weekend. They didn't even know whether whether Vargas was the real champion or the interim champion or super champion. They didn't even know until the week or yesterday it was when they announced it. So then you've got the WBC with what they're doing with Benavides and Michelini, and it's just a circus at the moment. And I think I said the other day as well that, geez, you wouldn't have thought at this stage that with what's going on with Zuffa that the sanctioning bodies would just actually try and get their shit together so that they can have a chance against Zuffa going forward. But they just keep shooting themselves in the foot, kicking own goals, whatever you might want to say, and it's just different circus each week, I think, at the moment.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, I just keep hearing, obviously I don't know anything about business and I don't know anything about American business, but you keep hearing all the power plays in boxing say, like this TKO group are amazing business people and they're highly aggressive and successful and they know what they're doing. But I mean, in terms of the boxing side, like their public messaging has been absolutely horrendous. Like we don't know what the hell's going on. Now, maybe this is all a part of the plan and they're just pulling strings and they're sitting back in the boardroom laughing. Look at these guys. They're all going berserk. They don't see our master plan. But I mean, if you're just playing with people, like good on yous, but it doesn't breed loyalty, doesn't, garner you any more respect and admiration from the established boxing community, at least in my opinion. I can only speak for myself on that one, but yeah, just a whole, like you said, a circus. That's probably the best way to put it, Lynden.
Dana White hasn't come out at all yet to discuss Jai Opetaia and the whole IBF thing. There was talk about legal action, all this sort of stuff. I'd love to see Dana White come out and publicly back Jai Opetaia and really stand by him. But I said on my show last night that I just think Dana White, when it comes to UFC and the Zuffa thing, the fighters are just commodities. They work for the company. They'll do what they're told, and they don't really go into bat for them. And that's why, a couple of months down the track, Dana White still hasn't openly discussed what happened to Jai and what they're going to do about it. So I just think it's really just piss poor, and it doesn't give me a lot of encouragement going forward with Zuffa. Does it just become another UFC type of organisation where they're just part of the stable and they'll do what they're told, or they'll actually get behind them and really help them grow, help them become wealthy and everything else, or at the end of their careers, they just throw them over the shoulder and go into the next one. That's the fear I have with Zuffa.
Isn't it crazy, Lynden? Like I've spoken previously about, obviously Dana White's familial altercation he had in a Mexican nightclub. I don't want to rehash people's personal business, but it's public and, it's certainly nothing to be proud of. But in terms of and I don't know, I guess this is probably a harsh question to ask you. And maybe I asked you last time we spoke. I can't remember, to be honest. But I just can't believe that the fact that the UFC or the parent corporation of the UFC or whatever have literally just settled a $375 million lawsuit against previous fighters that they've had under contract. They settled. If that's not an admission of guilt, I don't know what is.
Yep.
And all these fighters around the world, including, look, I'm not undermining the intelligence of Jai and his team or anything like that. That's absolutely not what I'm getting at. But surely when you're going into a deal with a new person in a new entity in sport, you do a little bit of research, and surely that would be a red flag, would it not? Like maybe a barrier for entry, I would imagine, but people just seem to be signing these deals left, right, and center. It's amazing.
Well, the thing is, what I said with the IBF situation with Jai as well, is that we still haven't seen any evidence whatsoever from Tasman that they actually had permission, and Zuffa, that is, had permission from the IBF to sanction the fight. There's been no sanction letter. There's been no correspondence that's been shown. All that's sort of been said is, oh, well, we thought we had the backing of the IBF, and then they sent the representative and all that out there and everything else. But at no stage have we seen a sanction letter, which is what you always get. So has there been a breakdown there, and they're just a little maybe afraid to admit that they stuffed up? And the other thing is obviously just sitting down with the IBF in the first place before they went to Zuffa and said, all right, we're looking to go to Zuffa. How does this affect us as the IBF champion? I don't think they had the conversation. I really don't, because the messaging coming from the IBF and Tasman, I mean, Mick's been interviewed a few times, and, he's done his best to sort of cover the tracks a little bit. But as I said, all along, we've had no sanction letter from the IBF, and we haven't had any evidence that the IBF said, that's all right, well, you go and do what you're going to do with Zuffa. It's not going to affect your IBF belt. So I've got a feeling that they've sat down with Dana White. Dana White's given the spiel. How good is this? More money, more this, more that. And they haven't actually stopped to think, how will this affect us with our IBF belt? And then it just blew up in their face spectacularly, in the Glanton fight. So I don't look. Maybe I'm wrong, but I want to have someone get it out of Mick Francis. Maybe I'll interview him myself. I don't know, but just to say, hey, mate, where is the proof? Where is the documentation that the IBF belt was on the line against Glanton, and also the discussions you had with the IBF about if you went to Zuffa? I just think no one's done the due diligence. They probably assumed this was going to happen and be approved, and it just hasn't been. And unfortunately, Jai was the scapegoat, I suppose, and the guinea pig about what might happen to other champions going forward, which is why I've got a feeling at the moment we haven't seen a lot more champions go over and sign with Zuffa. I know there's been a couple, but not many, not as many as what we would have thought 6 or 7 months into the whole operation.
Yeah. Well, mate, I'd love it if you had a chat with Mick Francis on your show. And while you're getting the answers, Lynden, you might be able to get Zarafa on and we can see that X-ray as well. But
I don't think he's coming on my show, mate. No, he's had a little bit to say to me over the journey. He doesn't really like what I have to say, but that's him. I think if he did that with everyone he's had a bit of an issue with, he wouldn't be on any shows, would he? But no, I'm not. I don't think I'm on his Christmas card list, mate. No.
Fair enough. Well, August 9th in Dublin, Australian time. That fight will be all the more interesting for all those storylines and reasons that you put out there, Lynden. But let's get back to a little bit of Aussie boxing news. Tszyu is fighting Errol Spence. He's sacked his whole team again. He's teamed up with Jeff Fenech, who seemingly, at least to my limited knowledge, seems to have total control over the training and the managerial side. Jermall Charlo is potentially going to be on the undercard. We've got Sam Goodman fighting Ramon Cardenas for the interim WBC super bantamweight title. There's a hell of a lot going on with that card. There's so many interesting storylines and angles to tackle it from. What's this far out? What at the moment is the most intriguing part about that event for you, Lynden?
Oh, I think it's great though, isn't it? I mean, the main event by itself is fantastic. The Jermall Charlo is an interesting one. Being on the card, I can see why they've done it. He's obviously part of the stable, and they want to get him back into action, and why not do it on a big event like that? But I'm wrapped for Sam Goodman that he's got this Cardenas fight, because Cardenas can fight. I know he got stopped by Inouye last year, but he's a good fighter, and he's going to test Sam. And I mean, there's probably not a lot of room for other fights on the card now. You think they'd be just filled up with 4 and 6 rounders with local guys, but I mean, they're building as the biggest show ever in Australia. I'm not sure that's going to be the case, but still, I mean, the main event in itself is so great, isn't it, as far as the opportunities for Tim and the mystery surrounding both guys. Has Errol Spence got anything left? Has Tim got what it takes under the Jeff Fenech tutelage to get the job done with Errol Spence? So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing whether Tim can get back to anywhere near the fighter that he was, and whether Jeff can actually make the improvements and changes that he needs to make to get the job done. I think he can do it. I really do. I think Tszyu can win that fight. But yeah, the card itself, well, we still don't know too much about it. We still don't know where it is and the venue and everything else, even though I've been told with good authority it's going to be in Sydney. But what is the hold up 6 weeks out? They can't get a venue. It's been at least a month or longer that it's been since the fight's been announced. And you would have thought they would have had a venue by now before they went so public with everything. So they're running out of time because people have got to get themselves organised. So they better get the news out in the next week or so. I actually had someone message me, might have been this morning, made a really good point. Do you think they're waiting until the Liam Paro fight? Maybe the ticket sales aren't great and people are deciding which one they're going to go to. Who knows? But if they wait until the Paro fight, we're only going to be 4 weeks out, so they're going to be even less time. So I don't really buy into that, but I suppose anything's possible. I'm sure there's something simple why that hasn't been announced yet, but you're 6 weeks out, they're running out of time, aren't they?
Yeah, no, I didn't even take that into consideration, Lynden. No, that's a great point. For me, it's probably the whole Fenech. The team up with Fenech for me, and I don't mean to make this point in any way that not that Jeff would ever say it, that like challenges him or anything like that. Like that's absolute. I just want to say off the bat that's not what I'm getting at. Like he could physically and verbally absolutely tear me to shreds any way he wanted to. I'm not looking for a fight in any way, shape, or form with Jeff Fenech. But I think it has to be clear, like the pressure is on him. I see all the pressure on him leading up to this, with all of all we can judge people on as fans sitting back on the couch is what they say publicly. That's why I'm sort of so harsh on Zuffa, because the public messaging is just so all over the joint. There's flat out lies on occasion and whatnot, and all the public messaging, at least my interpretation of I've seen from Jeff Fenech in relation to Tszyu over the last couple of years is, if we look behind the curtain, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but essentially the way I'm interpreting is him saying, these guys you're with don't know what they're doing. I do. Come with me. That's essentially what he's saying. So for me, this is his time. He's got the full reins of the training situation. He's the manager. He has, at least what I understand, full and total control. So now it's time to put your money where your mouth is and deliver. So I actually feel like there's a lot of pressure on Jeff Fenech in this build-up.
Yeah, no, it's a good call. You're right, because even though he's inadvertently or put his little comments in all over the career of Tszyu, he's always sort of denied that he really wanted to be the trainer. I think we all knew that he did. But you're right, he's pretty much said all along, whether directly or indirectly, these guys have no idea what they're doing. I do. So if I was in charge, he'd be a lot better fighter. So this is going to be the fight to prove that, I suppose, isn't it? And if he doesn't pull it off, well, there's going to be a lot of scrutiny on Jeff. And there's been a lot of people, even when the news came out that he was going to be heading the preparation for Tim, who said he's not a good trainer. He might have been a great fighter, but he's not a good trainer. He's had no world champions. He's had no really good fighters to speak of. I know there's been a couple in there, but so the pressure's on. I think if they do it the right way, it is a great choice for Tim. And I've said all along, I don't think he needs to reinvent the wheel with Tim. I think more than anything, yes, he needs to make a couple of subtle changes, but I think it's more embracing the Fenech mindset, persona, work ethic, whatever it might be, and embracing that. And that will be enough to maybe take him from one level to the next. I don't think he's going to try and just change everything. I don't think he's at the stage of his career where that's possible anyway with Tim. But if he can just make him a little bit more rough and tough inside, maybe sharpen up his inside game, whatever it might be, and just really get his mindset right, I think that's the difference he can make. And I thought it was bizarre when he got rid of Pedro Diaz after 2 fights and his management, but he's made the call now, so he's got to back it up. And if he can get over Errol Spence, I suppose we won't be asking any questions about it, will we? But I was surprised. Well, not surprised by the change in trainer, but I was massively surprised by Mike Altamura being outed as well. I thought he'd done a great job. He'd negotiated the Spence fight. I don't really know much about the Darcy Ellis involvement. I can't really comment on that, but all I know is from Mike Altamura, he's one of the best in the business, and that really, really surprised me. But it's up to Tim now to justify his decisions, and if he gets a job done against Spence, I suppose we'll all shut up, won't we?
Yeah, no, exactly. And I was actually going to reach out to Mike. He's been on the show a couple of times right around just before that news broke. And I ended up not reaching out to him because I didn't want to do it like, opportunistically, like tabloid style, you know what I mean? Like I just want to talk about the fights more than anything. So I actually didn't reach out to him. But yeah, that's a good point. I forgot all about that. It would be interesting to hear his perspective on how all that went down. But anyway, it remains to be seen. But yeah, I would echo your thoughts absolutely on great for Sam Goodman in a bloody tough fight with Cardenas. But how amazing that these fights are starting to happen for our guys on our soil. Like we just spoke about Liam Paro traveling and George Cambosa's traveling and Andrew just did it on the weekend. But what a fantastic opportunity for Sam to get that fight at home, and sort of even the playing, or maybe stack the decks in our favour a little bit for a change, which is great too. So, best of luck to Sam, and hopefully
Credit to No Limit as well. Credit to No Limit for getting the fight too, because I've been, mate, no secret, I've been very vocal about some of the shortcomings in Australian boxing, but overall, when they do this sort of stuff, well, you got to give credit where credit's due, and they've done a great job getting that fight, and the Tszyu Spence fight, of course, here as well.
Absolutely. And before we get into the upcoming action over the next couple of weeks, and we will jump into the Liam Paro's main event pay-per-view against Lewis Crocker for the IBF Welterweight title and the rest of that card for sure. Just announced this week, Money Max McIntyre is headlining a Tasman show on the 10th of July. The opponent came out yesterday, or at least that was the first time I saw it. It was 21-1. 20 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw, Ukrainian Bohdan Sobol. What do you make of the matchup, Lynden?
I did see that. I saw a little bit of, what's his name? Bohdan, is it Bohdan somebody?
Sobol, Sobol.
I've got the press release here. Yeah, Bohdan Sobol. I actually looked him up on YouTube, and as we always do, Box Rec as well. Look, it's a very... well, obviously a very winnable fight for Max. I'm rapt that he's got this opportunity so young in his career. I think Tasman have really gotten behind him, and they could probably see him as the next superstar. It's a good fight. I mean, I think it's a fight. He's very much in his favour. I think he'll knock. What's his name again? Sobol, is that his name?
Bohdan Sobol.
Sobol. I think he'll knock Sobol out. I mean, he's got that Ukrainian type of style where he's a good boxer, hands nice and high, good jab and good movement, everything else. But I think Max will sort of be able to break him down pretty easily. So look, but having said that, even though I think it'll be a pretty, well, I won't say easy, the fights are never easy, but it'll be a conclusive victory for Max. I think it's a great step up from Tasman fighters for Max. And I think at such a young age, these are the fights he needs. There's no reason when you go international, you've got to go straight into the deep end. You've got to just sort of put your toe in the water. And I think that's what they're going to do. First taste of headlining an event. I think it's great. And I think he's a type of kid that'll really relish it. And I think he'll come through with flying colours and be a star going forward. And could we get down the track, Max McIntyre and Callum Peters? That for me is a mouth-watering fight in another 2 or 3 years' time. Would be fantastic.
Jeez, well, I guess the question is there, like, will Max McIntyre be a cruiserweight by then? He's huge.
Yeah, he's a big boy, yeah. What is he at the moment? Super middleweight, isn't he? 168?
Yeah.
Peters is 160, but could easily fight at 168. So, yeah, look, the odds are he'll probably end up at 175, but we can dream, can't we?
Yeah, no, mate, I never even thought about that. I'll be dreaming about it tonight. That's a great matchup, mythical style. But I had a little bit of a look at Sobol last night. I could only find one fight on YouTube. That was the fight that he lost by knockout, ironically. So maybe that's not the best way to always judge someone off the worst moment of their career. But I went 7 or 8 rounds. I think he's 26 years old. He looked really big. It was his last fight at middleweight. His next 2 after that have been at super middleweight, so I'm sure he'll be more durable up at 168 pounds. But yeah, he looked good. He looks experienced. Even though he got stopped, he looks tough. But yeah, his hands are all over the joint, and Max is sharp. Max is so sharp. Like, that's his best attribute. I don't necessarily love all the flashy stuff, but he definitely has an eye that can see openings, and he has the mental ability and the physical ability to take full advantage of those openings when he sees them. So I think he's only going to be better for that fight with Tszyu. I loved that fight. And I just wanted to shout out to Matt Clark. He's a mate of the show as well. He was on a couple of years ago and been really nice to me in person when I've met him a couple of times as well, Matt. He is on a tear with matchmaking lately. To my knowledge, he's only recently just sort of fell into that role, at least maybe officially. Maybe he's doing it sort of a little bit more behind the scenes. But what he's been doing, not only just for Max, but for other fighters in the Tasman stable as well, I just wanted to have a massive shout out to him because I think he's doing a fantastic job. In terms of development for Max, from Tszyu into this Bohdan Sobol, I mean, to me, it looks like a pretty good, couple of rungs up the ladder, and at least this strategy that Matt's employing, you can sort of see where they want to go. Sometimes matchmaking just seems to be all over the joint, and sometimes it has to be out of necessity. But yeah, just a massive shout out to Matt. Do you like the way that they're sort of progressing Max's career?
I do, and there's the old-fashioned way of building a career, which I really like. And no doubt there'll be people out there that watched the knockout loss to Sobol and that was the fight I watched as well. where they'll, geez, he's this guy, blah, 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 and he's a shit opponent and whatever else it might be. But they don't sort of remember the back in the day, or, the good promoters and matchmakers, they build a fighter. And then this is his first foray into being a headliner, which is great. And then because all the focus will be on him, it'll build experience. I think Sobol is not, as I said before, not really a real challenge in the ring. But for me, it's not necessarily about that. He'll give Max rounds, but he'll also just give him that experience that he's going to need going forward. So I just think it's a really good step up for Max now. And then each fight will be the same. Looks like he'll be a headliner going forward. Unless maybe Jai fights somewhere, he might go on the undercard of him or something like that. But overall, I just think it's a really good way to give your fighter experience and just a bit of first-hand experience as far as these big events go. So I think it's great. And you're right, matchmaking's been fantastic. All the Tasman fights are always, well, I'm going to say generally pretty good. The Jai Opetaia card last year, there was a few mismatches on that card, but overall, since then, they've improved a lot. And especially when it comes to their main stars, Connor Wallace is the same. They match them up really well and get them the fights they need. So no, he's Matt Clark, was it, doing a good job, and I always enjoy the Tasman show. So can't wait to see it, and hopefully Max comes through with flying colours.
Yeah, fingers crossed. So let's move ahead to the next couple of weeks, and immediately coming up this weekend, Lynden, globally available worldwide for free on DAZN. This is pretty unreal. A pound for pound, Jesse Bam Rodriguez moving up to bantamweight to fight defending champion Antonio Vargas. Worldwide, globally for free. That is unbelievable.
The way it should be.
We're paying for Nikita Tszyu pay-per-views for Australian titles. But anyway, let's not go down that road again. But, mate, Bam's moving up to 118. I mean, you sort of touched on it when we were talking about Andrew at the start of the show, and in the implications of maybe him vacating his titles or coming back down. But at least for the immediate future, this weekend, he's up at bantamweight. How do you like Bam going up in weight, mate? Have you seen a bit of Vargas? What do you make of the matchup?
Yeah, no, Vargas is tough. He'll be a good fight for Bam, but I mean, Bam Rodriguez is something else. He's an absolutely elite, top sort of 3 or 4 pound for pound fighter in the world. So I think he'll get the job done. But Vargas won't be easy. Seen a little bit of him over the journey. He'll give Bam Rodriguez a fight, but Bam has this ability to make very good fighters look ordinary, as do the really good fighters in the world. So I'm expecting him to win, probably maybe late round stoppage, if not clear cut decision. And then by all accounts, he's going to call out Inoue after that in the ring. So while I'd love him to go back down to 115 and fight Andrew, looks like he's going to go to 122, which is a little bit concerning in that he's gone up through the weights pretty quick. From 115, if he goes to 122 after this fight, it's a fairly big step up. But having said that as well, I suppose we're only talking 3 or 4 pounds per division, not 7 or 8 like you get in the heavy division. So I think he'll be able to carry it. He probably walks around at about 135 anyway, so I'm sure he'll be able to get the weight down. But can't wait for this weekend to see Bam, and then of course against Inoue. So should be competitive. And look, this is what we pay our subscriptions for, isn't it? With DAZN, to get these free fights. Everything these days seems to be behind a paywall. So it's good to actually get a fight for free. And I'm not sure, it's probably on 10, 11 o'clock on Sunday. So yeah, looking forward to that one.
Yeah, I think around about midday 1 o'clock main event is normally with that part of the world. But also on the undercard, just a shout out to these guys. I was on Luke Attell's podcast in America, Lukey Boxing, back in February, where at the end of each month, he does awards for the month and then sort of uses that to annotate his results for the year and that type of thing, and he gets a different person on. So I actually watched a fair bit of boxing, more than I normally would in February, because he approached me about jumping on that with him. So there was a fight, and this is going to be the co-main event on the BAM undercard. Arturo Cardenas versus Jordan Martinez. It's a rematch. Their last fight was on the Navarrete Sugar Nunez undercard, I think. I was pretty blown away by Jordan Martinez. I did not see him being competitive with Arturo Cardenas. So I sort of had a bit of a keen eye on that first one. It was a great fight, ended in a draw. I thought Martinez probably should have got the nod, but it's a little bit of a sleeper and kind of one that's under the radar, but should be a really good rematch in the co-main event and produce some nice fireworks. So one to get up a little bit earlier for and keep an eye on there. There's actually a pretty good show at the Melbourne Pavilion on the 20th of June as well. Where did I put that? headlined by Donald Jones defending his Australian super middleweight title, against Tasmania's Sebastian Wells. And Donald Jones in the news recently with Callum Peters calling him out and apparently some sort of amateur rivalry there. Also, Bo Piggott back against Simon Zartang. And a good fight with Theo Dunius, who's just coming off his great performance against Kai Hodgson. Kai Hodgson got the deserved win there. He's fighting Zeke Campbell. So it's a pretty good local show there that I'll probably, if I end up watching that, I might even jump on for a hit out and do a solo one, guys. So that may be on the Tuesday or so after that, but I'll keep you posted. But let's get to the big one, Lynden. Sorry about my preamble, mate. Wednesday the 24th on Main Event pay-per-view, Liam Paro has his delayed world title shot after the defending IBF champion Lewis Crocker had a reported hand injury. But it's scheduled. It's close. Surely nothing can happen again. Hopefully the banana peels are all chucked in the bin and we're good to go. It looks like it's going to be on. Liam Paro, Lewis Crocker, mate. Do you like Liam's chances?
I do. Look, it's going to be tough. Lewis Crocker is a very good fighter. He's a really good-sized welterweight. He's got that whipping left hook. Or right, left hook? Yeah, left hook. Yeah, left hook. I had in my mind he was a southpaw there for a second. I was thinking of Paddy Donovan. But when they fought, he come over the top of that sort of lead right with the left hook. But no, he has got a good kit of punches, very skilled, tall for a welterweight as well. And Liam, of course, struggled in his last fight at welterweight with Papo, so that's got to be taken into consideration. But the thing that sways it, I think, in Paro's way or his direction is the fact it's in Australia. I think that'll be worth 2 or 3 rounds to him in the long run of the fight. So I think it's, as far as just head-to-head goes, very, very tough, 50-50. But I think, as I said, it swings back Paro's way with the home ground advantage, we'll call it. But don't sleep on Lewis Crocker. He's a very good fighter, and he's coming to win. And if Liam Paro can get over this fight, it'll be, I think, probably on a par with the Matias fight, which was obviously a performance as well. So I'm looking forward to this fight. The whole card should be pretty good. It's got a pretty good undercard to it. No Limit have done a really good job putting this together, and I've got no dramas handing over the $70 or whatever it is for this one.
Yeah, I would agree. My sort of qualifier for pay-per-view has always been, like, if there's a legitimate world title on the line, I understand you're going to want to cash in on that. So, yeah, I have no problem. I'd like a little bit more meat on the bone on the undercard, but we'll get to that. But, I would echo your thoughts on Lewis Crocker there as well, Lynden. But what was really surprising to me was, we look at the 2 Paddy Donovan fights, and a credit to him for being able to adapt and change his style, but a credit to his, now old trainer, Billy Nelson, I believe it is, who they completely changed the style and had a different game plan from fight 1 to fight 2. And fight 2 was close as well. I think it was the knockdowns that you mentioned with those left hooks that he was catching with, catching Donovan with probably the difference in the end. But to me, that seemed like a great ability to formulate a game plan by his trainer, Billy Nelson, and a great ability to follow the game plan. So a great team and a great synergy. At the crowning moment of your career, when you win a world title, you sack your team and go and sign up with some other bloke. So now he's having his first fight with, I think it's one of Adam Booth's assistants. I've seen his name. I can't even begin to pronounce it. It's a really, really tough name to say. I'm not sure how much experience he has as a trainer himself in the UK. I really don't know. I've never heard of the name before, but that isn't an indication of anything either way. But it just seems strange that, after the crowning moment of your career where you showed all this ability to adapt and be composed and, really mature, great performance, and then you sack your team, you got a new trainer, you lose the purse bid, which is out of his control by like 20 grand or whatever it was, which is crazy. And now you're fighting in Australia after you've been injured and it's delayed again. Like, it seems to be that there's a lot up against Lewis Crocker in his first title defense here. Look, as a biased Aussie, I'm wrapped. And all those things I mentioned seem to be, only adding to my confidence in Liam Paro that he can pull this off. But as you mentioned, that fight with David Papo was not impressive at all. But I'm a massive believer in Alfie DiCarlo. Again, I've had Alfie on the podcast a few years ago as well.
Very good trainer.
I'm a huge believer in the team. I've had Stephen Edwards on the podcast a couple of times. I think he's the best cut man in Australia. Yeah, absolutely. I would echo that too. So I know his team have got the best interests around him. I would like to think that the Papo performance was an anomaly and that they've had all this time to go, all right, Liam, this is, settle down. Let's dance with the girl we came with. Let's use our control of distance. Let's settle down. Let's not get over aggressive. Let's turn the screw, as Alfie likes to say, slowly. Let's not dial up the pressure too early and get ourselves caught like he's shown he has in the past. So it's so intriguing from both sides. I'm never going to pick against an Aussie. I just can't do it. I'll always be biased, and I'll never apologise for it, but I'll put my bias on the table. But this is a big moment for Liam, and I believe there's only ever been Jeff Fenech that's won an Australian that's won a world title in a second weight class. So this puts him in the Australian history books again for another reason. It's a massive opportunity.
No, correct. Yeah, well, there's been a few interim champions here and there. I mean, I think Anthony Mundine and Danny Green, I think, won in different divisions and a few others. But for legitimate world titles, this will be the first time since Jeff Fenech. It goes to show how great Jeff Fenech was, wasn't it, when he should have won titles in 4 divisions. And no one's ever won more than one. But look, I think he's a great chance. Looking at that whole card as well, there's a lot of fights. It's a Wednesday night. And I think was there 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 fights on the card. I know they've got the split prelim card and then the main card, but I think there's 40 or something rounds just on the undercard and then another 40 rounds or something on the main card. That's a big night. That's sort of 7 to 8 hours of boxing and on a Wednesday night. So, hey, it's good that they've stacked the card, but they'll be starting at probably about 4:00 in the afternoon, I think, if they're going to get through all those fights. Although I think the rugby league fight's only a 4-rounder on the main card, isn't it? So, but you've still got Liam Wilson in a 10-rounder, Dempsey McKean in a 10-rounder, Luke Medini in a 10-rounder. So it's going to be a long night, I think.
So what piques your interest on the undercard there, Lynden?
Well, I always love watching Liam Wilson fight. He always comes to fight, doesn't he? I'm not so sure. I've had a little bit of his look at his opponent on YouTube. I think he'll have no problems getting over the top of him. Dempsey McKean, Liam Taliva will be a good fight. I really like Luke Modini. I don't know much about his opponent. What is he? I do actually know a little bit about his opponent, Peng Q. I remember he beat Paul Watson back in the day about 10 years ago. So he's 17-2-1. He was supposed to be a big deal in China. So that's also 10 years ago. So I expect Luke Medini to get that one. I have no interest at all in the rugby league fight. Couldn't care less about it. I think I've said I understand why they've got it on the card. I really do, because Liam Paro's fight isn't cheap. And they need to bring a lot more eyeballs to the event and a lot more pay-per-views. I get it. But to have it as co-main, that's the thing I have a problem with. Liam Wilson should still be co-main. But anyway, I'll jump off my soapbox. But really like Vargas Larfield being back on the card as well. I think he goes all right, Vargas. But if I had to pick one, I'd probably say I'm looking forward to – I'd have to probably say the Dempsey McKean and Liam Taliva fight. I reckon that'll be fireworks from everywhere that will be. So – but overall, look, it's a good card. It does fall away a little bit towards the tail end, but overall, I mean, end of the day, we're only sort of going in or buying it for the top couple of fights anyway, aren't we? So,
yeah. Well, I mentioned too, I'd like a little bit more meat on the bone on that undercard, and I stand by that. I'm a little bit probably more underwhelmed than, say, your position, Lynden. But I mean, it seems like it's kind of just got thrown together. It was an event that got postponed. So I get what they're up against. The world title, like you said, is the crowning jewel. But weirdly, we've got Stefanovic fighting a guy who's 3-7 for some reason. Yeah. And we've got Taliva, who we beat, fighting Dempsey McKean. I don't know what's going on there.
It's a 4-rounder too, isn't it? The Stefanovic fight, a 4-round fight. You got the Australian heavyweight champion in a 4-round fight against a guy that's 3-7.
Yeah. I don't know how that makes any sense, but
got the G-banger though. He's back on. That's good.
Oh, is he? Is that
Lance McDonald?
Oh, is that guy?
Yeah, Jesus. The G-banger. He's back.
I can't say I like the gimmick. It's it's a bit embarrassing, I think. But anyway, whatever. Bloody G-banger. There you go. But I'd say that the other match, and I get it. Liam Wilson's in for a run out here, but Alexandru Marin hadn't fought since 2019. And the last time he fought was at super flyweight against someone you promoted, Lynden, and I was there when he fought Andrew in Bendigo, Lewis Conception.
Yeah,
he's had one fight at lightweight, seemingly to knock the rust off, and now
I think
he's
his
fighting
last fight though was at 135, but before that it was 115. So super flyweight. Then he was out for 6 years, and now he's come back and he had a fight about 12 months ago at lightweight. So,
and that guy's record was like 20 and 42 or something, wasn't it?
16 and 57.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry, I got that wrong.
It took him 5 rounds to get him out of there. 16 wins and 57 losses. But yeah, Lewis Conception, he was a good little fighter. That was back in 2018 is when I promoted him and Andrew at the Bendigo Stadium, and Tim Tszyu headlined that card. So we had Tim Tszyu and Andrew Moloney on the same card. Who would have thought, all these years later?
Yeah, mate, I made the trek up. That was a great show. Great venue, too. I love that place. But yeah, so that fight for me, it's Liam Wilson. It's like, what's the point of this? I get it. They got to get him out and have a run. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to – I'm going to pay the $70. I've potted No Limit, maybe as much as you have. Lynden and I will continue to when they deserve it. This is a world title fight. They've delivered it to Liam on home soil. I'm going to pay for it, and I'll put my gripes aside for the next card.
but see, the thing is too, without sort of getting stuck into No Limit again, is that my argument, I'm sure you're the same. The argument's always been is that I always refer to them as having the keys of the Ferrari. They've got everything. They've got all the TV rights, all the backing. They've got everything. So, but one thing they don't have is structure. So they put on some great main events. But you talk about with the Zuffa model with Dana White, he likes the storylines and the build-up and all that sort of thing. This is what No Limit should have. With all the cards that they have and all the fight shows that they have and all the fighters at their disposal, they should be able to build storylines and have this fighter's on the card and this fighter's on the card. On the next one, they're going to fight each other or whatever it might be. Create the storyline that, as I said, Dana White's trying to build with Zuffa. But No Limit just have no direction whatsoever. As long as it's about the main event, then they just throw everything together on the undercard. Now, some of them have been some really good fights. I get that. And I know they've got to give Liam Wilson and Sam Goodman and these types of guys the fights are after, but it's not those guys, it's the other ones that fall underneath them. And I've said all along what they lack is someone that really knows boxing as a matchmaker who can really build these guys up and reward the young kids coming through. And they started this there was No Limit on Fox that we haven't seen for quite some time, where that should have been the proving ground for all these young fighters, and then they get on the pay-per-views after that. But I just think they just don't have anyone with a real boxing business brain as part of their organisation who can really guide them through it. It's just they're good at what they do, don't get me wrong, and I fully take my hat off to them as far as getting these big fights together. But I just don't think they have much of a structure underneath them. I think it's very, very brittle underneath the solid top foundation. Underneath is a bit shaky to me. So if they could get that right, they should be able to block out the match rooms and Zoofers and whoever else is coming at them these days. But they just seem to lack that sort of boxing business acumen that they need to sort of stave off some of those challenges. But anyway, off topic there.
Yeah, no, mate. No, we had many conversations like this before on the last couple of times you've been on the podcast, Lynden. So I'll save you from going over the same boring ground that because my opinions haven't changed. But I think I've mentioned it to a couple of people. I may have mentioned it to you last time. I've been really kind of borderline obsessed the last couple of years with. I know it's a different sport, but like the rise of the NBL. The domestic Australian Basketball League. It was down and out in 2015. I've made comparisons to it and I've tried to explore. Anyway, just a little teaser for people listening and watching coming up. I have reached out to someone in the basketball world to do a podcast all about that, because I think even as different as the sports are, there are lessons to be learned from the way that the NBL was rebuilt and to what it has become now that boxing can certainly take a leaf out of their book from. So I've had some conversations with a person who they're going well. I'm not saying it's definitely going to happen or definitely not, but it's just a good way to explore an idea and all learn and see how we go. So I might have something coming up in the next sort of couple of months along those lines. If anyone's interested, they're probably not, but we'll see how we go. But just to finish up, Lynden, the end of the month, we have a great fight coming up. A two-belt fight from the defending champion at 154 pounds, Xander Zayas fighting Jermall Boots Ennis. This is pretty mouth-watering. It's got a lot of buzz, and the closer we get to it, the more excited we're all getting. Are you as sold on Xander Zayas as we all seem to be only relatively recently, or do you still hold some reservations?
I've got reservations. That's why I think this fight is such a great fight for him. And I really like his whole attitude towards the whole fight, if I'm being honest. I think he's he has embraced the whole thing rather than think, well, I'm just now the stepping stone for Boots to get his belts at 154 to set up the Ortiz fight and Fundora fight maybe. And he's really embraced the fact that, no, I'm the champion. You're coming to me. I'm up for it. This is a legacy type of fight. So I like his attitude. I'm just to be convinced about how good he is. I would expect Boots to beat him on points pretty comfortably. But if he can somehow pull this out or even be really competitive in this fight, my attitude will change. I know he's only a young guy, by the way, but I've always thought he's been talented, but I just thought he sort of lacks something. But this is his fight to prove it. But like everyone, I'm a big rap for Boots Ennis. I think he's a super talent. I still don't think he's been tested by anyone of note just yet, so his test will come. But this is obviously just to set up the Ortiz fight going forward. But full credit to Zayas for taking this fight. And in one way, I'm sort of hoping he wins, to be honest, because, I mean, I can see that potential there, but I just think he lacks a little something to beat Boots. And, I mean, he's a once-in-a-generation type of talent on paper, Boots, or just at first glance. But, of course, he's got to win those big legacy fights to prove that. But I'm really big on him. But looking forward to the fight, I think it'll be a cracker. But Boots Ennis, for me, should win quite comfortably over 12 rounds, I think.
Yeah, well, I was certainly guilty of underrating Zayas. I mean, he signed with Top Rank when he was 17, I think. So we've been watching this guy. He's only 23, but we have been watching him for years. And I think there was a time, and he was so young, and I guess I'm being really harsh on him, but I saw a little bit of stagnation in his development, or at least I thought I did. I was like, I don't know if this kid's, what they're trying to make out that he is or could be. But I guess the Barao fight just absolutely blew all that out of the water for me. Like, it was a really incredible performance for a guy that's 23 and, he's been a pro for 6 years, or that type of stuff. But I love this fight because, to me, these guys are so opposite. Like, you've got a guy like Boots Ennis, who you would think the way that he fights, like he's this slick, not to compare him, but like a Max McIntyre who can find an opening and see the opening and execute. But he's really not, or he hasn't shown to be. He's kind of a super athletic guy, and he spams guys with power shots until, he throws a lot of stuff up against the wall and waits and sees what sticks and goes with that. He's not like and maybe he is, but he hasn't shown that he's that slick sort of technician that his style from the outside kind of looks like he is. Whereas he's going up against Xander Zayas, who doesn't really have one standout ability. He's really solid everywhere, and he's pretty fundamentally sound. Like, he's the much more technically methodical fighter. Like when he throws a left rip, he's going to keep his hand on his chin. When he throws a right hand, he's going to tuck his shoulder. He's going to do all those type of things. He's not going to run out and throw an overhand right and a leaping left uppercut like Boots will. Like, the clash of styles is almost like completely opposite. So, is it too early for Zayas? I mean, according to all these pre-fight talk, as you've been getting to, absolutely not. And it's just making me even more excited for it. But how do you see that style clash playing out? Or have you got a bit of a different read on it, Lynden?
Well, he's a good size too. Don't forget too. Zayas is a 154 pounder. He's a big guy, tall, and the comparison to Max as far as his, I suppose, body type is probably there. They're tall and lanky and look big for the weight. I just don't think he's well. I think Boots is obviously super talented. Yeah, he can be a little bit loose sometimes, but he's just got a great kit of punches. Zayas, on the other hand, for me, he's tight and does everything well, but he doesn't do anything that's above average, if you ask me. He's a good young kid. I think this will be a real learning curve for him. And again, I hope he really does well. I've just call it a gut feeling. You're right. The styles are completely different, but I've just got a feeling that Boots is a class at this stage above Zayas, and that's why I think he'll win a clear decision. I don't think it'll be easy. I mean, Zayas is a really good, tough young kid and maybe a future champion again down the track, but I just think it might be a tad early for Zayas. And I just think this is really just purely to get those two belts to set up the bigger fight, which is Virgil Ortiz. But full credit to Zayas for taking this fight, because it's a very, very risky one. He probably could have taken easier fights in this in defense of those belts, but I really like his style where he's stepped up. But I just can't see how his skill set is going to match up with Boots. I mean, he's a sensational fighter and potentially could be maybe the Terence Crawford of this era. We'll see. Wow. But super talent, and I just think he's just going to have a little bit too much class for Zayas. Should be a great fight, though.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to finish on the undercard, we've got some really great prospects from either side of the pond: Emiliano Vargas and Ben Whittaker. Have you been tracking their development, Lynden?
Yeah, Whittaker, I don't know, what is he, 28, 29? He's got to start stepping it up. I don't like the flashy stuff. I don't like the talk, but as a fighter, he's got a lot of ability. But I mean, it's impossible to make anything of him at the moment. He hasn't been matched well at all. It's reminds me a little bit of Terramoana Jr. You know, like they look like they're great talents, but how do we know when they just keep putting in there with fighters that are 3 or 4 levels below them? So it's definitely potential out there. But at 28, 29 years of age, they've got to step him up within the next sort of 12 months, or it's going to be too late.
And Emiliano Vargas, have you kept an eye on?
Oh, I love Emiliano Vargas. Yeah. Really, really good young fighter. I met him in Vegas about 3 or 4 years ago. We went to see him spar Jorge Linares, actually, of all people. Yeah. Linares sparred all 3 brothers on the day. And I remember that day that he sparred the boys, and Emiliano Vargas would have been 18 or something like that, just a young kid. And Linares put it on him and really took it up to him and really went hard on him. And even though he struggled to keep pace with Linares and copped some big shots and a bit of a pounding from Linares, he did not take a backward step, tough as nails. You would expect that from a Vargas, wouldn't you? But I remember walking away, and I'd never heard of him before that, by the way. This is what, 4 years ago, but I remember walking away thinking this kid's going to be okay because he's a tough kid. And Linares did not hold back during the spar, and where he probably towed up the other 2 Vargas brothers, and they probably cowered a little bit in the spar. Emiliano did not take a backward step. So I always thought, as I said, walking away from that, he was going to be a good fighter, and he will be a world champion at some stage. I'll match him properly. He'll be a world champion. Don't worry about that. Whether he can get to the heights of his dad, we'll see. But he's a future star, and I've got no doubt he'll be a world champion.
Oh, I love hearing those stories when people get to watch guys spar, because we never hear about it enough.
Yeah. Completely by accident. I was with probably someone that's known to everyone out there, Grant Tazzy Brown. We're over in Vegas, and we actually went there to see. I can't remember who we were going to see, but he said such and such might be sparring at this gym, and we went in there. And the Boxing Voice podcast, they do they're one of the biggest podcasts in the world, the Boxing Voice. And we met those guys there, and they said, yeah, no, the gym's just downstairs, because we couldn't find it, and went down there, and all of a sudden Fernando Vargas and the 3 boys roll up, and then Jorge Linares, and I think Shane Mosley might have been there as well. They all just turned up, and it was a great day of sparring. It really was. And some of the best, or fights, we'll call them, I've ever seen have been in the gym with guys like that. So it was a treat to be there, and mate, he's a tough kid, and that's why I've got no doubt he'll succeed. Don't worry about that.
Oh, man, that's so awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that, Lyndon. I cannot beat that anecdote. That's probably a good place to finish it up, mate. But wow, damn, that's so cool. Just before we do go, Lyndon, mentioned at the start, you've sort of updated the Boxing Deep Dive graphics and thumbnails and things like that. And one of the things I admire about you and your channel is you're always evolving, you're always changing, you're always thinking of the next thing. What can we come to appreciate, and what can we expect to see for the rest of the year for you on the Boxing Deep Dive channel, mate?
Yeah, I've always got a lot of different ideas sort of coming up, and I always try and be a little bit different to the normal YouTube shows out there. I mean, guys like yourself do a fantastic job, but it's not really what I do. I don't do the podcasts as such as to interview people and that sort of stuff, and what you guys do, and people like you just astound me sometimes with the amount of work he's put in. So for me, it's really just my input. I like to sort of take people along for the journey with what I'm doing, and that includes some trips. I'll definitely be going to another trip at the end of the year. I've got an idea, or if you watch my show, you'll know that I do the 2 hours on a Monday night with a fan engagement, and every morning with the walking boxing. That's probably been my biggest innovation, the whole walking dog sort of thing in the morning, just having a bit of a chat to the camera.
How'd you get the gloves on him?
All AI, mate. All good.
As a joke.
But what I'm actually looking to do, I want to do another show during the week, a talk show type of a show on the channel where we get maybe people like yourself as well, just 2 or 3 people to come on there, and we just do what we're doing now as a live broadcast. We have fan engagement as well, other YouTubers, reporters, journalists, whatever it might be, to get on and do that. But also probably another segment I'll probably do at some stage, maybe I'll alternate, but we do it where we get the actual viewers on the show. So have the link where they actually come on the show live. And that's even dangerous. Though on a Monday night, well, yeah, I know. Even though on a Monday night, it's all with comments coming through, this is to actually get them on the show. Put the link in the description, as they say, in the chat. And
Yeah.
people can actually click and come on and we can talk. So it is fraught with danger. So it's something I'm thinking about doing and giving it a go. And if people play nice and behave themselves and be respectful and everything else, then I'll keep it going. But the other thing is also after fight events themselves have, I suppose you call them fan cams, where after the fight, straight afterwards, you allow people to come on there and on the show and chat about things like that. So I'm always looking for things to sort of be a little bit different from everyone else. I don't try and compete with everyone. I just try and do my own thing and enjoy it. And just think of different things I can always come up with. But for now, the main thing is the walking boxing and the talking boxing on a Monday night and the trips as well. So we'll see what comes up with that. But apart from that, mate, always love coming on shows like yours and talking boxing with other like-minded people. And you're doing a great job, mate, and keep up the great work.
Oh, I appreciate it, Lynden. Thank you very much, mate. Well, yeah, that's great to hear you. I always know you're cooking up some ideas, so it's always exciting to see what you're going to come up with next, mate. And have no doubt it'll be successful because you put your heart and soul into it, like everything else you've done, mate. So, yeah, congratulations for all the work that you've done on the channel, mate. And also all the work and the help along the way that you've given to Team Moloney too, and culminating in Andrew's great performance over the weekend and the crowning moment of his career. And it's unbelievable that he rang you an hour afterwards to presumably show his appreciation. Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. I'm sure you'll call him back. No worries, Lynden. We'll just stay on the line because this will just upload, mate. But thanks very much, mate. I appreciate it. All right, guys, and that was my chat with Lynden Hosking, Australian Olympian, Commonwealth Games representative as an amateur boxer, and the host and creator of Boxing Deep Dive on YouTube and Spotify. So, guys, as always, the links to follow along with Boxing Deep Dive and also Lynden's personal Instagram page as well are in the description of this episode. So click away and get following if you aren't already, along with one of the most prolific content creators and individual content creators. I've said it every time Lynden's been on in the past. The stuff that he does is so outside the box. It's against the grain. It's, he said it himself, he sees people going in one direction and he purposefully goes the other. So the stuff that he does on his channel is always very interesting and very different. And something that I think he deserves a lot of credit for is always that constant innovation. He's always looking to improve, expand, diversify. It's a pretty admirable trait, and something as someone else that tries to, like the content creator is such a weird, cringy thing, but I guess that's what we are doing, what I am attempting to do. It is quite inspiring to see Lynden sort of taking constant or always changing direction just slightly and keeping things fresh and interesting. So if you want to get along and follow with Lynden personally, or get along and follow on Boxing Deep Dive, which I would highly recommend both, you can do that by clicking the link in the description of this episode. And I thank Lynden for his time. He's always so generous with his time. He's so easy to deal with, and I appreciate it every time. And I learn a lot every time we speak. And, these days I normally just have some dot points and some fight results written down, but I feel like with Lynden, we don't even really need any points. We can just sort of start talking about the sport for seemingly as long as he would let me keep annoying him. But no, it's always a heap of fun and a great thrill for me to be able to chat with Lynden. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. As you can most likely tell, I enjoyed the hell out of it. So, guys, a little bit of a change up to the show format. No one's actually commented, but the last couple of episodes I was recording the intro only for the audio version. I wasn't doing the intro for the video version up on YouTube. And the reason for that is I was chatting to a bloke who's like right into the creative world, and he was saying, mate, with these videos, you've just got to get straight to the point. Like, people don't care about you explaining for 2.5 minutes about what they're going to listen to. They'd rather just listen to it, or watch it, I should say. I was like, oh, okay. So he goes, make it a bit shorter and snappier. So I was like, all right, well, I'll just do the intro music and then bang straight into the chat. No one said anything positive or negatively, and now I just like the idea of doing less work. So this was the first audio version of the pod where I did not record an intro. We just went straight into it. So yeah, if you guys want to give me some feedback, if you like that, or if you want me to bring the intros back, which, I don't really see the point, but if people like them, I will. I mean, it's basically just a summation of what I write in the description of the episode anyway. So once that bloke sort of pointed it out to me, it was kind of like a light bulb moment. I was like, oh yeah, why am I doing that? It's kind of just extra work and just a kind of extra time that doesn't actually bring any value. So that's the change up, guys. I'll keep going with that moving forward unless, we get some feedback where you want me to bring it back, and I would be more than happy to. But as mentioned in the episode, guys, this is hopefully, I know I say this all the time, and I'm walking down the same roads I've done before where I've spruiked about what's coming up and then it hasn't, and there's been big gaps. I know I'm a glutton for punishment. I'm a sucker. But I've got some multiple irons in the fire this month, guys. This should be a 4-show month. So the plan is to go again next week with a guest. Then there's also, as I mentioned, I just got the idea while I was chatting to Lynden actually about that 20th of June show at the Melbourne Pavilion, which is sneakily good. Hopefully I can, if I don't have anything going on, I can catch that fight. I'll jump on for a hit out. And then I've also got something lined up for Zayas Boots Fight Week with another guest as well. So, all things going to plan, it'll be a 3-guest month, and we'll also throw a hit out in there as well, provided I am able to watch those fights, which I'm pretty sure are available on streams.com.au or livecombatsports.com.au, something like that. And as if I have a life on a Saturday night, I'm going to be at home watching the fights, most likely. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, if you know what I'm saying. So that'll be the plan for the month, guys, which is super exciting and makes up for a little bit of trouble we had last month, just in scheduling, nothing serious. But yeah, so hopefully 4-show month this week, this 4-show month this upcoming month. Excuse me, I've been talking for way too long. So, guys, if you want to get in contact with me, you can send me an email at tuscpod@gmail.com. That's tuskpod@gmail.com. If you want to throw a tweet at me, you can do that at delivery_man2. Also got the Instagram page, guys. That's tuskpod, where we just post up reels. And actually, I wonder if people are enjoying the reels. They seem to be getting a little bit more traction than... if anyone doesn't follow on Insta, I essentially just used to post like a static picture of the new episode or whatever, just describing it. I don't really know how to use social media. And then I sort of went into like recording some little bits of it off my phone camera, like through the editing program so you could hear it, but it was kind of a bit bootleg. And then eventually, I think someone taught me, and I can't remember who it was. I definitely didn't figure it out myself, but you can release like individual reels with captions and stuff. So I've been doing that and releasing sort of the top 4 AI rated ones from each episode onto the Instagram page. And I also upload them as YouTube shorts on YouTube as well, just to try and generate a bit more eyeballs and stuff. You know, we could always do with more views and more listens and all that type of thing. So yeah, I think they're going well. So I'll be doing that again. But anyway, that's what we do on the Instagram page. And of course, guys, we have the YouTube channel with the full... at TuskPod with the full video episodes, and like I said, the same reels from Instagram. I just put them up as shorts as well, and just sort of see how that goes, guys. And we'll see how that format works moving forward. But if you want to get in contact with me, you can do it that way. Now, just before we finish, guys, a massive congratulations to Andrew Moloney, as we spoke about at the start of the episode. Fantastic win, gutsy as hell, brave on multiple levels, not just inside the ring, but business-wise, outside the ring, all of it. And as is no surprise to us Australian boxing fans now, Andrew just conducted himself like an absolute thorough gentleman and a man of conviction all the way through, inside and outside the ring. And that is nothing that we haven't seen from him before, and there's no doubt we will continue to see that from him and Jason moving forward. They are fantastic Australian boxing role models and should be the faces of this sport in this country. But that is a conversation for another pod down the line. But congratulations to Andrew on becoming IBF World Super Flyweight Champion. And hopefully coming up at the end of the month, Liam Paro can do the same by taking on Lewis Crocker for the IBF Welterweight World title. We may have 2 IBF champions by the end of the month, guys. How good would that be? So, guys, stay tuned. I will be back next week after the BAM fight at some stage. I'm not sure what day yet, but we will be back next week. Most likely, hopefully, fingers crossed. We'll be back next week. I'm going to declare it now. Let's put the pressure on. And, guys, I'll talk to you next time. Until then, enjoy the fights.
Road less travel may add up the change. Living like there's no tomorrow, then tomorrow came. Going all out. I was living like there's no tomorrow, then tomorrow came. I got the wake-up call, laughing through the window frame.